angels, and monsters. Unfortunately, the book Sunrise over Fallujah is a disgrace to his work that is barely worth the time, but moreover, the effort to read. The book seems to be lacking of a central backbone that lets the reader understand the whole objective of the story. To many readers, the book is a book without a story, not having the reader's desire to read anymore. The subject itself does not entice the reader to read on. A narrative of civil affairs team in Baghdad, where Fallujah never comes into play. This book in many ways can relate to a sentence. The descriptive settings can act as the adjectives and nouns, but you can't have a sentence without a verb, in which the story is missing.
Sunrise over Fallujah has three main characters that you get to know throughout the book. They are Jonesy, Robin, and Marlowe. Jonesy is a young African-American man from the South who is unsure about the reasons why he joined the Army. His dream is to return home and open a blues club that he plays in every night. He says he joins the Army to make stories that he can eventually turn into blues songs, but as the war goes on, his intentions for serving begin to change. The next character is Robin, or Birdie, as the rest of the squad likes to call him. Robin is also a young African-American from Harlem who has pride for his country. He joins the Army as a result of the patriotism he feels from after the 9/11 attacks. Joining the Army goes against his father and further damages their already rocky relationship. Throughout the war, Robin starts to struggle with his feelings about the war due to the various events they go through. Lastly, there is Mama. She is a young woman from New York City who had a rough childhood. Her parents gave her up when she was very young, so she bounced around from foster home to foster home, having a couple encounters with the law. Joining the Army was initially just a way of avoiding college, but her views on her future alter as the story unfolds. The author tries to develop the three main characters through a variety of random events and dialogue. You have to pay attention to analyze things in order to understand the characters. The three main characters meet in an army base in Kuwait. They are all assigned to the civil affairs unit. Their objective is to make friends with the Iraqi people after the infantry units have swept through and cleared the area. Most of the time, they find themselves cleaning up the mess they made by the Marines and the other units. Throughout the book, the squad has to resort to violence despite their peaceful intentions. This comes as a shock to the squad at the beginning, but starts to become standard as the war continues. This has a range of effects on the characters that seems confusing due to the randomness of the incidents. The story is told through a first-person narrative from Robin as he describes his experiences with both combat and fellow soldiers. There are certain instances in the book where Robin and the squad seem to accomplish their objective by aiding the Iraqi people. In one part of the book, they bring medicine to a village of Iraqi citizens and gain their trust. The villagers are so pleased the children end up playing a game of soccer with them. In contrast, there are parts that show the true brutality of war when innocent people are killed. At one point in the book, the squad apprehends a young man after they find a spent RPG shell in his house. When the boy runs away because he is terrified, he is gunned down without hesitation.
The first setting of the book is in their base in Kuwait, where the teams are prepared for their entry to Iraq. Once they enter the country, they spend a few days on their way to Baghdad, where they establish a base where most of the U.S. forces in the area operate out of. From there, they visit a variety of villages, towns, and public buildings found throughout the country. The whole story takes place over about 4 months, starting in February 2003 and ending in June of 2003.
War is a topic in which Walter Dean Myers writes about very often. In his award-winning book, Fallen Angels, the moral of the story is almost identical to that of Sunrise over Fallujah, when he writes about a young Harlem teenager by the name of Perry volunteering to fight in the Vietnam War after his schooling fell through. Sound familiar? He later finds out of the morals of war and how violent it can result to. Though enlisting in the Army at the age of 17, Walter Dean Myers never played a role in combat in war. As shown here, Walter Dean Myers did not simply sit down and begin writing. He had much preparation that needed to be done before then, in terms interviewing with soldiers and gathering information on all the events in the war. For instance, in the book, Major Spring Myers is portrayed as an educated and beautiful woman, real life being the daughter-in-law of the author.
Some people will argue that the book is violent and may be inappropriate for some teenage readers. Sunrise Over Fallujah was written for young adults interested in war content and historical happenings during them. Many will find the book pointless, which is fair, but it must have the reader who is a war fanatic. The characters relate to death many times throughout the book, by the ways they can weave into our minds and emotionally break us down. Young readers, as well as adults, will have a unique and complicated appreciation for this book, even though it is lacking main ideas, in a way that it presents those who risk their life every day to fight for our